Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Virtual Investor. Paul and Mike here, and we're going to go over this big NAR settlement that happened for 418 million, and just talk a little bit about it and what are some of the ramifications. Real estate. I personally am a realtor. My wife's a realtor, but we personally do not care for the whole real estate industry and the way it's situated and set up. And I think this might help. Mike will probably have his thoughts on here too. Just at first glance, Mike, what are your thoughts on this? What do you feel about it? Positive, negative, kind of doesn't change, it doesn't move the needle, or where are you on this?
Yeah, I mean, I guess let's first define like what happened for people before we dive into that, right? So it's right now it's a settlement between the National Association of Realtors. I think it was a 1.8 billion lawsuit based on, I guess they used the words like fixed pricing or
Right.
collusion, basically, and they're agreeing to pay 418 million in damages. NAR, and again, NAR's accepting no responsibility is kind of like a settlement here, and ultimately, I think what came about this lawsuit is essentially forcing home sellers always to pay that extra 2 to 3% commission to buyers agents,
The
essentially.
buyer's agent.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if anything, this lawsuit changes the business model a little bit,
Yeah.
and part of that is driven by technology too. The last several years, like, you and I use so many free sources online, especially experienced investors, like where it questions the need for a buyer's agent potentially on making offers and things like that.
Oh, so true.
And what I'm reading is right. It's going to benefit home sellers because instead of paying 6% commission, they might only be paying 2.5, maybe 3% now just to the sell side. And the buyers now have to basically enter into a contract, probably, I'm guessing, upfront with the buyer's agent on, do they pay them a fixed fee to help them find a house, or some kind of a percentage of sale type of thing to kind of show them houses, essentially, is what I kind of got from it. I don't know what your
Yeah.
thoughts are
Yeah.
there.
No, I would agree. I would agree 100%. And for right now, realtors are still kind of going status quo with it, where they're still trying to collect their typical 6%, right? And the whole thing
Yep.
was about that 5-6% thing. That's
Yeah.
like industry standard. And it was an unwritten industry standard, right? And I know some
Yeah.
places I charge 7%. I know a lot of guys who just charge 5 standard. And a lot of people who just try to charge 6. We deal with it all the time, like when we list our properties on the
Yeah.
MLS. So I mean, this could benefit us. How NAR wants to spin it is that it's going to hurt real estate values because now you're undercutting and getting rid of these people out, and the people will sell the houses cheaper. And that's just not true. Really, that is just total spin doctoring, because people are still going to sell it for that higher price. They're just going to keep more of their money, right? Their home is their biggest investment that they're making in life for the most part, most people. So
Yeah.
now they're going to be able to keep more of the profits instead of just giving, say 2.5 or 3% to a buyer's agent, right? So now I do think it'll change the industry, maybe for the better in certain ways. In that, I mean, buyer's agents always are the hardest working ones. The listing agents don't really have to work that hard. They list it, they get the photos, they get the details about the property, but they're not really traipsing people from house to house to house, right? So the
Yeah.
buyer's agent you would think would get the majority, but it's typically not that. It's typically the listing agent that gets the majority. You and I, Mike, have always liked the idea of some kind of like Amazon marketplace for houses, right? Where you could list
Yeah.
them, a national MLS, where, I mean, this would be truly great for everybody, especially with the way people relocate now. That you can go search anywhere in the United States where you want to move to. Let's say you wanted to go to El Paso, Texas. So you can look on the national MLS, see properties there. You would literally just contact the listing agent at that point, right?
Yep.
Doing that here. And to me, I think it's a better model that way. Saves people having to pay so much commission, and just gives them more control. I believe it gives them more control. Well, I don't think we'll ever see that national MLS anytime soon, but I would really like to see that
Yeah.
personally.
And just to remind everyone too, it's like you're not forced to use a real estate agent, right? If you do, usually what the market was this 5 to 6% range in total, and half would go to the listing agent, and half would go to the buyer's agent. But with a lot of platforms out there like Redfin and others out there, the push to these lower commissions kind of has been coming, and I'm guessing I put some pressure maybe on this settlement essentially.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And you know what? Come and think of it, a national MLS is kind of Zillow, right? Most listings, not all of them, but most listings go on to Zillow naturally from the MLS, because you're getting more eyes on it then.
Yeah.
So if you're doing that and you're putting it on Zillow, and we look for properties on Zillow, you and I, Mike. So, I mean, we're no different than anybody else that's looking to buy there, that they just want to live in it, where we're looking for it as investment. So you could contact that listing agent. They're usually there. You can usually find it on that page, and then you undercut the other person. The listing agent gets 2.5%, whatever it is, 2.5%, 3%. And you just kind of negotiate with them. I guess the whole thing is you don't really have somebody by your side. Technically, that listing agent works for the seller.
Yeah.
So that's where, they can drive up the prices. So you don't have that representation per se. But maybe you want to hire somebody. And what I do think will end up happening is, okay, the listing agent will get their 2.5%, 3%, and they'll offer an amount for a buyer's agent. And the buyer's agent will get some kind of certain amount, just kind of like it's now, but it'll probably be less. I'm guessing it's going to be less. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see how this plays out. I mean, this is so new. What, it just officially happened last week?
Correct. Yeah.
So I'm really curious.
People still trying to navigate through it. The buyer's agent ultimately is probably going to compensate either for a flat fee, flat dollar amount per listing, or some kind of smaller percentage, I'm guessing, of the actual sale price, like you're saying.
Yeah. And look, we've used flat fee listings for our properties in the past, and we've had good success. And I personally like it from the seller perspective, because the offers are coming directly to me, right? Coming directly to us. We look at them, we review them. It's not going to the realtor who's then telling us about it and then showing it to us. It's coming directly to us. We could talk to that buyer's agent directly, which happens. So I do like that model. I hope we do gravitate more towards something like that. Like, I do want more people to have more money in our pockets. And Mike, and you and I sell our properties, we'd like to keep more of that profit in our pockets.
It's a huge win then for us there, especially on the transactional model that we have.
Hugely so, because we list just the majority of our properties on the MLS, vast majority, if not all of them, right, over the last couple of years. So I do think it's something that's good. It needed to happen. I have always had a low opinion of realtors, most of them out there. There's some good ones. There's some really good ones that work their butts off. Don't get me wrong. But there's a lot of them that are, in and out, part-time people that aren't really committed and don't have as much knowledge about an area. We've run into them in the past, right? I mean, the REO agents are probably the best agents we have ever known, and they are the hardest working agents we have ever known.
Yeah, it's like any industry, right? Not every, there's A class people, there's B class people, there's C class people from a service they provide. And there's certain agents out there, we see them a bunch because we do nationwide, where we're more than willing to pay for. They're worth their weight in gold, right? And then there's others where things that come up last minute that shouldn't, and the buyer's agent or whatever blowing up the deal and allow it to blow up, essentially. So it's frustrating on those parts too, where they still walk away with a commission where they didn't handle their buyer the right way, or whatever the case may be. So you see it a full spectrum of it with all the transactions that we do.
That's like a whisper down the lane thing when you think about it. So you technically have 4 parties involved there, right? You have the listing agent, the sellers, the buyer's agent, and then the buyers. So the buyers might ask one thing one way, and it might not get communicated from the buyer's agent to the seller's agent correctly, or to the seller's agent to the sellers correctly. See, it's kind of almost that whisper down the lane where things change, where the less parties involved, I think, are better. I think ultimately what would be better if you have just the sellers, the buyers, and a middle person, right? That agent that can act as a liaison between both and has to do the best interest of both the buyer and the seller.
Yeah, less friction in the process. And for people that are experienced buyers like us, Paul, who are constantly buying properties, this benefits us at the end of the day, right? Lower commissions. We know what we're doing on the buy side. So when we make an offer, we don't necessarily need an agent to make the offer for us. So, we understand the contracts and everything, all the risk involved. And on the sell side, there is value to have someone else local list the property for us, because we do several different markets. Now, for the people that are maybe first-time home buyers or going into a new city and new market that are, only maybe bought 1 or 0 homes before, it makes sense to maybe have a buyer's agent for them. It's going to vary based on what your experience and what your needs are from a real estate perspective.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. I'm going to stop the screen share here. I don't think we need that anymore.
Yeah.
We've kind of gone over the crux of it, and what issues it's going to cause. I don't see any personally, and you tell me if you think I'm wrong here. I don't see any negatives to this, right? Do you?
No, I mean, as long as the buyers choose what's best for them, whether to use a buyer's agent to represent them or not. Just make sure you still take that transaction through a local attorney or title company, like anything else, and everything else should work. You just got to, if you don't choose the seller, if there's just one agent now in the process on the sell side, they just got to be more cognizant of all the things the buyers has to do and work with the title company and make sure they get the mortgage or whatever else they need on that side. Whereas you probably won't have that person if someone chooses not to use a buyer's agent, because it's now coming out of their pocket.
Right. And you know what, if you think about it from an agent perspective here, it could open up some different doors for different business models here, where you decide, I'm just going to charge a flat fee for handling transactions for you, right? For helping you find the right mortgage company, for helping you with a title company should you need that help.
Yeah.
Of course, in the negotiations, rather than that 2.5%, whatever it may be. Some people might be happy doing that for, $500, $1,000, or $2,500, or $5,000 flat fee. I mean, it just really curious to see what's going to come of it, and if those kind of business models, I think, could be very, very effective. And, as long as I guess the biggest thing with buyer's agents is they tend to be running around to a lot of different properties. So you don't want tire kickers, right? So if you're showing 13, 15 properties, you could be using $300, $400, $500 worth of gas and plus your time during the course of a month or two, right? So that's something.
I mean, I guess that is a one win for a buyer's agent there, right? You could eliminate tire kickers now essentially up front, because you're going to want to sign that exclusive agreement with them up front and clearly identify, like, hey, for this flat amount or this percentage of when we find the house, this is the services I'm going to provide you. Whereas in the past, they probably drug along people that, like you said, showed God knows how many properties to them and never actually pulled the trigger.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a great point. So you bring in, I think, more people, especially younger people, the millennials, the Gen Zers, they're going to be better about online and researching and seeing what type of property they want. So instead of looking at 15 houses, they might narrow it down to 3. And then the buyer's agent's not going to mind, all right, we're going to go look at these 3. We'll do it. I'll negotiate and help you out here. We'll do it this flat fee. And then, of course, it just gets tacked on in closing costs for them when they end up buying the property. Saves the seller some money. It saves the buyers. It doesn't say that it does cost the buyers a little bit more, but it does save the sellers a bit of money, but it does give them security if they want that, right? They don't have to have that. They could just go through, like we have done many times, go through the seller's agent, right? And just go directly. We know contracts. If you're comfortable with it, if you've been a home buyer in the past, it's not your first time, then you should be comfortable going directly to the seller's agent, negotiating with them and getting a deal done. And they'll probably gladly assist you with finding a mortgage company and title company, just because they want to make sure the deal goes through.
Absolutely. Yeah. Everyone's incentivized there to get that done and get it across the finish line.
So I do think there will be different business models like that with the agents out there. So that's something they got to look at. Realtors got to look at different opportunities here and think outside the box and stop being that old school mindset, right? Because the world's changing quickly.
Yeah. Part of me is saying, why did they take a lawsuit to make that shift, actually? Because Zillow, other Redfin, other sites out there, like, have all this housing data already out there. People for the last 10 years could have easily sifted through properties themselves and just, hey, I want to look at just these 3. Let me contact these 3 different, agents basically to look at the property. So I'm surprised it didn't happen on its own actually sooner. It took kind of like this, I guess, settlement essentially to kind of shake things up a little bit. But the technology's been there for the last, several, over a decade now.
I agree. And, one company has been out there kind of pushing this a little bit, Redfin, right? Redfin does have the super discounted commission. I just don't think their marketing has been great on it, for way.
And
discounted, they don't want to pay big marketing dollars, right?
Yeah. And then the downside to the Redfin, I don't think they're in every single US market either, right? They're in just certain major cities. They're not in, every town in America.
Right. Right. And they're bringing their agents in and they're offering a discount and they're feeding those agents in those particular markets leads. Right. So that's their market. That's their business plan. I think it's a pretty good one. And I think, like you said, it took this to force people to look at this. It shouldn't have. People should have been naturally gravitating towards this, just like when we went from looking local in our real estate market, Mike, to looking all over the country, right? We naturally did it. And we did it when there was way less technology out there to do it. Now it's really simple to do. So much more simple. But anyway, overall, I think this pushes things in the right direction. It's good for real estate. It's definitely better for sellers so they can save and put more money in their pocket when they sell their house. It's not going to reduce the cost of homes. It's not going to reduce the sales prices. People are still going to sell it at what it is. It just means more money goes into the home seller's pocket than
Exactly.
which it should, because it's a big investment they made. They've been paying that over the years, and they're the ones that should reap the rewards, right, of
Yeah.
that. So overall, I personally think it's better, and I know realtors don't like it, but tough, deal with it, right? It is what it is. Adjust or go extinct. It's
Yeah.
pretty simple. Any finishing thoughts on it, Mike?
No, I think we summed it up there well at the end there.
All righty, guys. Well, we will catch you on the next episode here.
See ya.